Hello, good people of the world. This is Paul Wesley, aka Princetruthchaser, on the Moment of Truth show via Skype. And our special guest today it's an honor for me to introduce to you Mr. Scott Stevens. How are you, Scott?
I'm well. Well, on this, we got here in Colorado, this cloudy, wet day, which is kind of a gift in the middle of the summer.
Scott, can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, who you are, and your background, as far as you being a meteorologist?
Yeah. Seriously breaking up here. So I'll give you a little background on me. Is that cool?
Yes, that's fine.
All right. I've had a position with others only 12, and that began with the Boy Scout Merit Badge. From there, I was able to befriend a local meteorologist at one of the TV stations that was near where I grew up in eastern Idaho, and he mentored me all the way through junior high and high school, and kind of in me for, since I was 12. So we're talking a little more than 30 years.
Right.
And in that time, I kind of realized that weather and meteorology was something I wanted to go into. Some of the other topics, or at least fields of business that I wanted to get into, or potential careers, was NASA. I kind of wanted to be an astronaut or a pilot. The Air Force was certainly a consideration. I went so far as to get letters of recommendation from congressmen and so forth. But I had issues with authority, and so I thought, let's just do weather. School was good for that. I went up to Kansas immediately. By the time I was a junior, was able to get employment at a local television station, and 10 months into that job, I was the main guy at the ABC affiliate in Topeka. I worked in Omaha, Nebraska, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Albany, New York, and then back out home into the mountains in eastern Idaho for the last 10 years of my career. So weather has been there for some time, and I'm always looking up. The sky is kind of a good place I like to go, whether it's a day or a night. Night skies, were really good for me, and so I've got telescopes and enjoy looking at the stars and the planets and so forth. Consecrating things at night here in southern Colorado as well. So meteorology has been a big part of my life since I was a kid.
Awesome. You were a weatherman for 40 years, I think it was?
20 years.
Now,
40. So I didn't start at 6, gratefully.
No, you didn't start at 6. But I'll tell you what. It takes a lot of heart and a lot of courage to come out about the chemtrail issue the way you have. Listen, I've went ahead and I've asked a meteorologist to come forward, and he literally almost ran away from me. It was crazy. What a lot of people want to know, Scott, is do you see chemtrails on the Doppler radar?
You can see the reflectivity of the materials that comprise the chemtrails on the radar. Now, they like to call that chaff, and in some instances that may be the case. When I was in Idaho, there was an Air Force base, the Mountain Home Air Force Base, southeast of Boise. Mm-hmm. And the Boise radar would pick up their exercises, and you could see these fine aluminum shards being sprayed in the sky or dispersed as cover to hide aerial operations by that base when they're going through training. But chemtrails is a whole other beast, and those metallic particles also create a reflective signature on the radars.
Right.
And so when we see days where there are massive operations, where they're engineering the weather, when they're enhancing high pressure zones, those will show up on radar as well. And the common excuse is that they are chaff for military exercises. Well, that's just a partial truth, because we know they're not military exercises, but they're part of an operation that has been underway for more than 4th decade of operation of these chemtrails. And there's other things that will show up on the radar as well. So we'll get rings, we'll get little spikes that will show up when the atmosphere is resonating, and then those ice crystals will profoundly and over a large swath of real estate, of atmospheric real estate, will reflect that radar beam back to the imaging site, or the point source, which is the radar site. And so radar is just one clue to see these activities in the sky. What you cannot determine from that is what they're doing.
Right.
All you can determine is the essence that they are there. You can't say whether they're enhancing a storm or distressing a storm. You cannot see that from the radars, at least to my knowledge.
Now, Scott, what I want to ask you is, the meteorologists, when they they say the forecast, are they told by the government to keep their mouth shut about chemtrails or weather modification?
No. It's self-censorship.
Okay.
It's doing it on their own because they don't know how to answer those questions. They don't know the motive. And I was there. And by about 2001, I began to be curious about some shapes and things I was seeing in the sky. The work by Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Bearden came into my awareness, and pictures of scalar weather engineering in the skies became familiar to me. I began to take those pictures from 2001, 2002. By 2003, I was utterly convinced that there was something wrong. I was seeing shapes and patterns that cannot form inside a fluid. The atmosphere behaves like a fluid without some resonance being introduced. And so I was on the fence about where the chemtrails played into this electromagnetic or resonance influences being introduced into the atmosphere. And so I deployed time-lapse cameras on my own budget. I bought 4 cameras, 2 computers, and some time-lapse software and put them around the house because I needed a way to get my accuracy in my forecasting back to where I was comfortable with. There's some delta, some change in value that was causing distress in forecasting. And the National Weather Service is dealing with this, and all of the weathermen on the air right now are dealing with accuracy issues, and they don't know why. And so until you understand the mechanism and the why they're failing their forecasts, they're not going to talk about it because they can't speak intelligently to the issue. And so until I saw these trails, I saw the clouds happening. If you could take a 12-hour day and compress that down to 2 minutes,
right,
you get a picture of what's going on. You can begin to see the patterns of the planes in the sky. Time-lapse software was absolutely critical for that to happen. And when you get into the larger markets, and Philadelphia is one of those, Kansas City, Denver, they almost all have sky cams. And they do time-lapse. But their sky cameras, at least with the news that we watch here in Denver, or the Denver market, they're looking at part of the sky and mostly at the ground. If they would simply tilt these cameras up a little higher in the sky, you could see this activity more clearly. And then maybe these weathermen, if they chose to analyze the time-lapse imagery rather than just talk about it on the air, for 8 seconds, they might have, a little more of an intelligent discussion with their viewers. The TV news has been so dumbed down. The weather cartoons, but the science is barely there. It's barely there. We've got news consultants come along and dumb down the newsrooms. They say, hey, because this worked in Cedar Rapids, it's going to work in Philadelphia. Or because it worked in Tucson, it's going to work in Bangor, Maine. And that's not the case. We have individual television markets that are unique. And it would be nice if these news departments could really nurture and do for their audience rather than this one-size-fits-all. But the weathermen don't talk about it simply because they don't know how to respond to the questions. They don't understand the motives, and they haven't done the research to be able to speak about it intelligently. And that's their own fault. That's their own fault.
Now, if any weathermen do know what's going on, do you think they're obligated to tell the public, or?
No, it's their personal choice.
Right.
It was my choice to tell the public because I had a deeper understanding and no issue with looking at the conspiracy theories, which are turning out to be conspiracy facts. I have no problem going out of the box. In fact, the box of what is news and what is acceptable to talk about is a very small box. And I just felt like I was too big a person to fit in that little box. And again, as I said earlier on, I have authority issues. And so, don't tell me I can't do something when this information, which would add value to my discussion with my audience, it adds value.
Right.
And they have choices of which news they want to watch. And our station was number 1 for 9 of the 10 years I was there, and largely because of my weather. And when you add value to the forecast, when you add that personal touch of your personality, your insights, your observations, which they can't get else, that adds value. And that is what is most important to the news director, general manager, the sales department. And this is why, this is the big hurdle I'm surprised we're not getting over. I know there are meteorologists, there are in the National Weather Service, in military, in private practice, and on TV that are aware of these. And I tell you, if I could sit down with 200 of them, we could change this topic. We could do that. Because when you speak of something plainly, sanely, and with intelligence and explain with examples, video examples, then we can change the world when it comes to weather. And what we'll also do then is enable whistleblowers to come out to risk their careers and indeed their lives to share the truth. That is coming. I promise you, that is coming.
Hey, Scott, do you think that it's do you really think it's like too late for people? Because they've been spraying since '97. I mean, are they killing us off? Do you think it's too late? I mean, what's the purpose of this?
It's never too late. It's never too late.
Right.
I just had a burning urge to share what I had discovered.
Right.
Because it changed how I viewed the world. It changed how I forecast the weather. And my general manager was very good with me. When I first, quote unquote, came out of the topic in October 2004, immediately I was requested to do interviews much like this. And that just continued to cascade until Katrina came along, and then I dealt with the BBC, I did CNBC, I did Bob's and CNN, and that my general manager said, just keep it on your own time. Please keep it on your own time. Don't bring it to our air. And so when I was doing my own weather broadcasts, I could talk about increased high cloud cover due to contra. Ooh, look at this curious geometry inside of this storm. I could leave these little one-sentence hints that there was more that I wasn't sharing, but I was able to point it out, and
right.
Then people could do their own research.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the extent of what we could do then. And being let go from television, freed me completely, because I didn't have the little call letters KPVI behind my name. It was just ScottStevens. And I was okay with that. And that freed me to talk about these things unrestricted.
Awesome, man. Like I said, it's I'm honored, dude, to bring you to the audience, to let people see this, because a lot of people, they say, well, it's chemtrails are from overpopulation, chemtrails are from, you always hear it from contrails, and everyone keeps coming up with an excuse how the chemtrails are fake. And, a lot of people are afraid to speak out because they're afraid to think outside the box of what's thought to be this reality we live in. And by you being a guest, it shows people, hey, listen, it's okay to speak up, because if enough of us do, regardless of the effects of the chemtrails that have already been bombed on us, there's still hope.
Those topics precisely why I did not like the chemtrail movement. Number one, the sites I was going to that discussed them had a very poor understanding of meteorology.
Yeah. And
when dealing with this in the atmosphere, you're directly impacting weather. And they didn't understand clouds. They didn't understand cloud and storm formation. They were ignorant. And so it was easy for me to say, this is not cool. And then the other part is that it was all about red blood cells. It was about viruses. It was about eugenics. It was about killing people off. And I thought there's much simpler ways to sicken the population. And my understanding of how is working has also changed over the last 10 years. That if you want to sicken a population, the citizen of this country is more valuable to the system sick than well. They're not privileged authority. They're beholden as a victim of their sickness to the system. And the one thing powers that be have wanted to do is drain the treasury of this nation. If this nation was on a gold standard, we couldn't afford these programs. We couldn't afford these wars. We would need a healthy, vibrant citizenry, because we're on a fiat money system, and debt is king, but debt is also what kills a population. It happened with every empire, if you will, is they overreach and they fall on their own face because of debt. And this is one thing that is happening. What is choking off the national budget is healthcare costs,
right.
These entitlement programs. And that is what eventually, and maybe imminently, fail this nation, is our budget issue and our warring nature. And so if we have a sick citizenry, they're not whole, clear-thinking, vibrant, and able to question authority, which is something we must do. We must always question authority. And one of the reasons why the fall of this book is, in their eyes, encouraged. But I don't think that is, and I know that it's not the primary reason for this program. It has to do with weather. It has to do with atmospheric phenomena. It has to do with the program of surveying the atmosphere. When you let a trail out across the sky, it acts like a thin wire, a tube, or literally a string. But that string does not remain intact as it moves, 80, 100, 400 miles across the sky. That line deforms, it changes shape. One zone of the trail will behave differently than another part of the zone. And where those two energy changes is where another plane will come along. So you're outlining boundaries from one formation of one behavior in the atmosphere with another one. And so they're using these trails to identify zones of differing energies in the sky.
Okay.
Whether those zones of differing energies is scalar, whether they're harp, whether they're acoustic with very long wave frequency sound waves, or they're with orgone or chi or prana force, which I believe is a very, very prominent part of their weather modification technology, simply because it's so bloody cheap to use, and there is not a non-pollution. And these people are dark. They've been infected. Our government's been infected by a very dark brotherhood.
I agree. And you want to talk a little bit about that? How do you? I mean, are you talking about the dark hats, the Illuminati?
Whether they're Illuminati or not, I believe this dark energy has been here for many generations. Probably, we may be looking at tens of thousands of years.
Right.
Its influence is not on this planet, but in this planet. And when you look at the work of geologist Phil Schneider and our government's exploration of underground and underground bases and so forth, they repeatedly come across entities which are dark and underground. And this is another one of the other agendas. But let's just say you have a rock in a garden, a stone, and there's an ant, and you can see that ant is curious about what's going on around. You roll the rock over and you find a nest. And I think when we uncover the chemtrail issue and roll that veil of secrecy back, we're going to find many, many, many other issues. We need to find the queens for the nest. And the chemtrails is just going to be one of those markers to go looking for and pinpoint this darker energy.
Right. So you think reptilians are real then?
Utterly.
You think the reptilian agenda is real, and Phil Schneider pretty much hit it on the money?
On the money. The man was killed over the issue. He was caught in a firefight underneath the Dulce base in 1979, and he went public and started carrying it. He had numerous attempts on his life, and in 1995 they eventually killed him.
And you hear it here first, people. This is an award-winning meteorologist. I mean, this man is amazing, and he's bringing it all to you. And the thing is that, Scott, love and light is key. I believe that. And I believe that these dark energies, they feed off of negative energy, and they want to create enough negative energy to where they keep this planet in a third-dimensional state. How do you feel about that?
Well, they want to keep feeding off us. And this is why humanity has been stopped at every corner from thriving. Mm-hmm. We can't thrive with its energy, this parasite sucking on us. And we have disaster after disaster after disaster instigated by them to create this aura of victimhood. And that's what keeps us from thriving, and it feeds them. And so until we change inside, individually, the larger picture cannot change. And so I can't impact you to change, but I can only change myself. And that's the key. When we change ourselves, then that impacts, say, the class GPA goes up as we evolve as individuals. Then everyone as a whole evolves. And our only responsibility is to ourselves. And once we accomplish that, then we essentially and others can come in and behind. So you lead example. You lead by doing it first, rather than standing at the street corner and shouting, "This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong."
Right.
That may bring that bit of awareness to others. But demonstrating the change is the key.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I mean, it is. I mean, it's another thing I wanted to touch base on is a lot of people say, well, you know, galactic federations are going to come down and help us, and you know, Pleiadians and and planet Nibiru is going to come by and break this energy field. I believe there's an energy field that's on the planet, but that energy field is from when we die. It keeps us reincarnating here in the present planet that it's called the veil. It's like a green energy field around the planet, so that way when we die, as our spirits ascend, we hit that and come back down. And, you know, we're recycled, I guess you'd say. But everyone thinks that planet Nibiru is going to come by and we're going to be saved. And I think it all, you know, why think that way? All that would do is slow us down. Why don't we just take our own responsibility, right? You know what I'm saying, Scott?
That's the key. That's the key. You know, I don't think something's going to come and save us unless we're willing to save ourselves. Why would they want to take on the karmic responsibility of rescuing a population that doesn't feel that it's worthy of its own salvation or of its own rescue? That until people on their own and with intent and focus and desire and passion want to change these things and begin to act, not talk, but act. Why should these other civilizations and these other races care? Why would they want to rid themselves as being then karmically stuck in our mire and our muck and our unwillingness to help ourselves?
Yeah, because then they would be karmically connected to us for helping us, right?
Yes.
I mean, the rabbit hole goes so deep, dude. It's
It works two ways. You can look at it as iron shackles or golden chains.
right.
Either bound to your actions, you're bound to your thoughts, you're bound to your deeds. There is no way out of it. And those entities, which are basically impose their will on this planet,
Right.
knowing our true place in space and the true history of mankind and what incredible beings we are and what we are capable of, you know, they have a debt to repay to humanity as well. And it may be thousands, not tens of thousands of lives that they are in the act of payment for their actions. Because there is a source, and there is a source which keeps accounting of all things, all thoughts. And so we have to let go of, oh my God, this is bad, this is horrible. This is just what is.
Right.
If Earth was a Garden of Eden, we would be having a discussion like this. I wouldn't know you, and you wouldn't have reached out to me.
Right.
And so them creating this stressful environment is allowing us to evolve, is allowing us to struggle, is strengthening us. So in some way, in some dark, twisted, beautiful way, they have served us as
right.
better than whole human beings.
I agree. I mean, I agree, and I think that what their one ace up their shoulder, their card that they play is the death roll, the death card, I call it. And it's like, okay, well, you know, be afraid of dying and be afraid of this. And you know, I believe myself that death is just like waking up from a dream. Right. It's the astral world. It's just like waking up from a dream. And if humanity knew that there was no such thing as death, how bold with love would people be? People would not take this shit.
You know, and we have this illusion, and Christianity, and well, in fact, most accepted standardized religions are
right.
very, very wrong in this issue. That the astral is more polarized than this dimension, than what they call the pinda, this realm,
right.
physical. So is far more intense. This is why those very, very dark energies, again, they're feeding on the lower vibration, which is this reality. Even as happy and glorious as this moment is, this is still a step below that. And a reflection of the astral, which is a reflection of the mental realms, or the Brahmanda realms, which is still a reflection of the causal realms before we get to the pure spiritual realms. And so we've had these beautiful teachings of Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, all these glorious masters that have come along. within 1, 2, 3 generations, their teachings are corrupted and dumbed down, and the wholeness of their teachings is lost. And I do believe that there will be, when we're ready, those teachers will show up, and there'll be a decision point for each and every one of us to make about whether we accept what has been and the accepted religions, or we accept a new teaching. And it's the same when Christ walked this earth 2,000 years ago. He was scorned and establishment couldn't stand him because he was disrupting the status quo. And if Christ were walking the earth today, I promise you Christians would not believe his teachings. He can come down on a cloud, but once he opened his mouth and did his teachings, they would not fall in line. They would not recognize his teachings. They would be too liberal. They would be too progressive. And that's kind of the irony of it all.
Well, wow, man. All I gotta say, this is a great interview, dude. What do you think about UFO invasion? Do you think that's a plan of the elite to try to use on people to try to control the masses?
If they had made an agreement, and Eisenhower, I saw his granddaughter, Laura Eisenhower, this past weekend at Consciousness Beyond Chemtrails, Los Angeles, and she gave a great talk. And Eisenhower was aware of all kinds of things and realized that agreements had been made.
With the grades, right, the setters.
Yeah, all of this game was in the 50s. And, Kennedy came in, one administration too late, to try to admire us from these agreements with these ETs. And we went with this set of ETs because we did not want to give up our military. The military-industrial complex did not want to give up the brand new atomic weapon. And so we've been with them ever since. That has allowed them to harvest our genetics. They're basically building this ark, genetic, all kinds of plants and things, because Earth is going to go through some changes. Earth is going to reach a D-Day. And humanity, according to Project Glass and Project Pegasus, is going to will have people who accept the new coding from the galactic core, and those go underground and hide from this evolution. And that change, well, eventually, according to this program, their eugenics programs, they end up in a how do I want to say this, an evolutionary dead end. Those who stay above and accept this new energy go on to become these glorious beings. But this is tens of thousands of years down the road. So I think ETs, honestly, nobody's from Earth.
Right.
Our souls are far too old. Earth geologically is 4.5, 4.6 billion years old, and you and I are older than that.
Right.
And we've had vast experiences in all kinds of life forms, as all kinds of different beings, and we hold that wealth, knowledge, and experience behind us, and that becomes our personality. And some of us have been through these experiences before, and that allows us the strength to stand up and to talk about this truth. And truth, not spoken in love, isn't truth. It isn't. It becomes something else. It becomes something corrupted. And so there are ETs, and there will be a day when we have undeniable experiences with them, either in the sky or just manifesting on the ground. It can happen like that. I mean, dimensions are dimensions.
Right.
There's tools to cross through time and through space, and nothing but a thought. It happens that quickly. And I think they're giving us our space to have our experience, so that maybe if this experience on Earth is so intense, so powerful, that we remember it, that we can carry it forever, and that when we graduate from Earth, we can take our experience out into the stars and into other civilizations and share what we have learned here to others that are still evolving.
Well, all right, everybody, because time is going low on my camera. I just want to say this is ScottStevens. It is, dude. It's awesome. Thank you for the privilege of letting me, being on the show. I appreciate it. Is there anything you want to say? We got 10 seconds, my friend.
Check out the movie Why Old Are They Spring? This is something that's just now coming out, and there will be a follow-on.
Okay, your website is?
Weatherwars.info, or find me on Facebook at Weather Wars.
Thanks a lot, Scott. Much love and light to you, my friend.
Sure, Paul.
All right, buddy.